Welcome to my channel Sella Buzz. At 89 years old, Robert Redford finally talks about his friend Paul Newman. Robert Redford was born on August 18, 1936 in Santa Monica, California. He grew up in a regular family. His mom, Martha Hart, was an artist who drew pictures for ads and taught him to love art. His dad, Charles Robert Redford Sr., worked as a scientist in a lab. He helped keep Robert balanced between being creative and being practical. Growing up in Southern California showed Robert the fun culture of the area and the magic of Hollywood movies. This planted the first ideas in his mind about becoming an actor and making movies. Robert's school days were also very important. He went to Van Nuys High School where he got interested in acting and performing. He joined school plays and tried different kinds of creative activities. After high school, he went to the University of Colorado where he first studied how to design buildings. This showed he was curious about many different things, but his love for acting and art pulled him away from building design, so he decided to learn how to act professionally. He studied at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City. This was a famous school that gave him tough training. There he met teachers who saw his natural talent and knew he could be great. Robert's acting career started in the late 1950s and early 1960s with small TV shows and tiny movie parts. But it was in the late 1960s and 1970s that he became a real Hollywood star. His big break came in the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in 1969. He starred with Paul Newman, and people loved watching them together. Robert played the Sundance Kid, and everyone thought he was amazing. He wasn't just good at acting, but he also changed what people thought a movie hero should be like. He was rebellious, thoughtful, and charming all at the same time. After that, he was in other great movies like The Sting in 1973, All the President's Men in 1976, and Out of Africa in 1985. These movies showed that Robert could play many different kinds of characters. He could do action movies, serious dramas, love stories, and movies about politics and mystery. Robert wasn't just a great actor. He also became famous for making movies and helping new filmmakers. In 1980, he started something called the Sundance Institute. This was a group that helped new movie makers who didn't have big movie studios backing them. From this came the Sundance Film Festival, which is now the most important place in the world for small independent movies. Robert believed that new voices should be able to tell their stories in movies, even if big companies didn't want to make them. His work at Sundance changed American movies forever. He made sure that young directors, actors, and writers could get their chance to make movies that were different from the usual Hollywood films. Robert also directed and produced his own movies. His movie Ordinary People in 1980 won the Academy Award for Best Picture. This made people realize that Robert wasn't just good at acting. He was also great at directing movies and telling stories from behind the camera. In the middle of the 1980s, Robert kept proving he was one of Hollywood's best actors. During this time, he starred in movies like The Natural in 1984. In this sports movie, he played Roy Hobbs, a baseball player who was talented, but also had problems and seemed almost magical to people who watched him play. Around the same time, he was in Out of Africa in 1985, a big romantic movie based on a real person's story. This showed that Robert could play complicated characters in beautiful, sweeping stories. Robert also started directing more movies during this time. He directed The Milagro Beanfield War in 1988, based on a book by John Nichols. This movie let him combine his artistic skills with telling stories about important social issues. The movie was about community, corruption, and cultural identity, proving that Robert could do much more than just act. He could also direct movies with deep meanings. In 1992, Robert directed A River Runs Through It, a movie that critics loved. It was about family relationships, personal loss, and the beauty of nature. The movie starred Brad Pitt and Craig Sheffer. Robert was able to make the movie look beautiful while telling an intimate family story. He was really good at getting great performances from young actors while keeping the movie thoughtful and almost like poetry. People praised his directing for being sensitive and artistic. This made everyone realize that Robert wasn't just a movie star. He was also a filmmaker who could create movies that really moved people's hearts. 2 years later, in 1994, Robert directed Quiz Show, a movie about something that really happened in American history. The movie looked at the 1950s quiz show scandals, where popular TV game shows were rigged to get better ratings. The movie criticized how media and big companies can be dishonest and make people lose trust. By making a movie about such a controversial and smart subject, Robert showed he was willing to tackle tough social issues through his films. He was also very good at balancing drama, character development, and historical facts. Robert kept both acting and directing movies throughout the late 1990s. In 1998, he both starred in and directed The Horse Whisperer, a movie that combined a very emotional story with beautiful scenes of the American West. The story was about healing, both for people and horses. This let Robert explore themes about trauma, recovery, and how nature can help people heal. His work on this movie showed his special ability to direct himself in a movie while keeping the story together and making it feel real and emotional. This made his reputation as a filmmaker with great insight and sensitivity even stronger. In the 2000s, Robert stayed busy both acting in movies and directing them. He starred in the 2007 political drama Lions for Lambs, playing a university professor in a story about politics, media, and personal responsibility. While acting in this movie, Robert continued to show his lasting charisma and seriousness. In 2011, he went back to directing with The Conspirator, a historical drama about Mary Surratt and what happened after Abraham Lincoln was killed. This showed his continuing interest in moral complexity, justice, and historical stories. The next year, he used both his acting and directing skills again in The Company You Keep in 2012, a movie with Shia LaBeouf. Robert both directed the movie and acted in it, skillfully handling themes about political activism, secrets, and personal responsibility. This proved that even after decades in his career, he was still a dynamic, multi-talented force in Hollywood. On August 9, 1958, Robert Redford married Lola Van Wagenen in a private ceremony in Las Vegas, Nevada. This started a long and complicated personal partnership that would last for decades. They chose Las Vegas for their wedding because they wanted privacy, and because the city's wedding places were already famous for being efficient and discreet, even in the 1950s. To celebrate with family and friends in a more intimate and traditional way, they had a second reception at Lola's grandmother's house on September 12th of the same year. This allowed their close relatives to be part of the happy occasion and create special memories. Robert and Lola had 4 children together, each with their own unique life story and connection to their father. Their first baby, Scott Anthony Redford, was born on September 1, 1959, but sadly died at just 2.5 months old on November 17, 1959, from sudden infant death syndrome. Scott was buried at Provo City Cemetery in Provo, Utah. This left lasting grief and sadness in Robert and Lola's lives. Their second child, Shauna Jean Redford, was born on November 15, 1960. She grew up to become a talented painter, showing creative abilities like her father's artistic interests. Shauna later married journalist and author Eric Schlosser, forming a partnership based on intellectual and cultural interests. David James Redford was born on May 5, 1962. He pursued a career in writing and making films, following in his father's footsteps by contributing to the creative world behind the camera. Sadly, James died on October 16, 2020, leaving behind a legacy of storytelling and artistic dedication. Their youngest child, Amy Hart Redford, was born on October 22, 1970. She chose a career in entertainment as an actress, director, and producer, continuing the Redford family's influence in film and theater. Together, the Redfords have 7 grandchildren, each representing the continuation of the family line and Robert Redford's personal and creative legacy. Although Robert and Lola were deeply connected through their children and shared experiences, their romantic relationship gradually grew apart over the years. Neither Robert nor Lola ever publicly said they were separated or divorced, keeping their changing relationship private. However, in 1982, entertainment columnist Shirley Ader reported that the couple had been apart for several years, meaning that the marriage had effectively ended personally, even if not legally. Almost 10 years later, Parade magazine reflected the confusion about their marital status, saying in 1991, "It is unclear whether the divorce has been finalized." This highlighted the couple's continuing privacy about personal matters despite Robert's public fame. On July 11, 2009, Robert Redford started a new chapter in his personal life when he married his longtime girlfriend, Sibylla Sagers, in a ceremony at the prestigious Louis C. Jacob Hotel in Hamburg, Germany. Sagers, who was also an accomplished artist, had moved in with Robert in 1996, sharing his home in Sundance, Utah, and becoming an important part of his personal and creative life. Their marriage reflected a mature partnership built on mutual respect, shared interest in art and culture, and a deep understanding of each other's lives shaped by decades of experience and previous relationships. This marriage, formed later in Robert's life, emphasized his continuing desire for companionship, love, and stability. It further highlighted the human side behind his public image as a legendary actor, director, and philanthropist. At the age of 89, Robert Redford, one of Hollywood's most lasting and iconic figures, finally opened up about his decades-long friendship and professional partnership with the legendary actor Paul Newman. Robert's thoughts offer a rare and intimate look into how deep their bond was, a connection that went far beyond what people saw in movies. In his comments, Robert did not hold back, speaking honestly, and with the kind of understanding that only comes from a lifetime of shared experiences and mutual respect. Paul was the kind of person who made everyone around him better, Robert said, remembering the natural charisma and humility that Newman had both on camera and off camera. He described how even when Newman was very famous, he never let success change his sense of humanity or generosity. Robert's words show not just admiration, but deep personal love that speaks to the rare kind of friendship. Robert also thought about the unique way their professional collaborations worked. "We had this unspoken understanding on set," he explained, describing how their mutual respect allowed them to push each other creatively while keeping a fun friendship that made long shooting days feel easy. He remembered the countless hours they spent talking about their characters, making up scenes on the spot, and challenging each other to make better performances, not for awards, but because they loved making movies. These memories show the deep, artistic connection that made their collaborations not only successful at making money, but also loved by critics. Beyond work, Robert spoke about the personal impact Newman had on his life. "He was more than a friend. He was like a brother," he revealed, talking about the personal support, advice, and quiet encouragement that defined their decades-long relationship. Robert's words suggest that their bond was a rare mixture of friendship, mentorship, and mutual understanding, the kind of friendship that goes beyond ordinary social connections and leaves a lasting mark on someone's life. Finally, Robert expressed gratitude and nostalgia, emphasizing how Newman's influence went far beyond their own lives and careers. "Paul taught me that success is measured by kindness, integrity, and the impact you have on people," Robert said, showing how Newman's legacy is not only about movies, but deeply human. By opening up at this late stage in life, Robert has given fans, historians, and fellow actors a treasured window into the life of one of Hollywood's greatest duos. It's a testimony to friendship, artistry, and lasting respect that continues to touch people decades after their first shared movie scene.